This is The Extra Mile.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Extra Mile. I'm Caleb Spear along with
G5.
the G5, and today we've got our guest for the Youth for God weekend. We have Brother Phil Robertson, all the way from Gainesville, Florida, correct?
That is correct. Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
We're doing good.
We're doing
Good.
well.
Well, thanks for the invitation.
We're glad to have you on.
Excited
Absolutely.
to have you on. So what's going on out in Gainesville right now?
Oh, let's see. Gainesville. The big news in Gainesville is there's these two schools from the Big 12 that think they can come into the SEC.
Oh, yes, that's so
and
true.
so that's kind of the talk of the town. And from the standpoint, they don't know what they're getting into. So that's kind of the talk. Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I wonder if Tech will get moved out somewhere else too.
I don't know.
Do you know what we're talking about, George?
I don't really follow sports that well.
What do
say
you
that
do?
louder.
What?
Yeah.
What?
George
I've
is
got
an
like 10
intellectual.
dislikes. Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah, you
He's in
pick
the
a
wrong town,
You
right?
pick a chess game or a football game. I'm gonna watch the chess game. So
That's George.
I don't. Yeah, it's bad. of me.
DG5, right there.
I will watch baseball with Paige. She's the big fan.
Yeah, but you're a sinner.
sports
You'll watch the Astros.
fanatic. Yeah,
The
yeah,
cheaters.
I do.
Oh,
I
my
watch the
word.
Astros, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's easy to work and watch sports. So, well, baseball, I should say.
Well, baseball.
yeah.
Simple enough.
So yeah, that's
So is that how you stay happy in happy Texas?
that's
you,
right.
Just
That's
don't
right.
get into sports.
You
huh?
don't get into sports. You
Okay,
just
well.
read and watch the flies fall. That's horses.
Yeah, but Gainesville's great. Got a lot going on. Church is doing very, very well.
Wonderful.
We're all happy to be back
Yeah.
together. We're booming. Looking forward to the college kids coming back soon. In fact, I've considered it. This is my national championship team for the college group.
Oh.
We have a lot of returning starters coming and some great transfer students coming
Oh, man.
in from Florida College. So we are rocking. We're going to get a national championship in spirituality. So
Oh,
we're looking
man.
forward to that.
Oh, I
It's
look
going to be a
forward to
great
that.
year.
That'd be great.
Man.
But George, he didn't understand anything I just said. did he?
No.
That's all right. Okay. He got the idea. He got the idea.
What's a football again?
All right, then a quick more wrap up on you, Brother Phil. So you correct me if I'm wrong. Born and raised right here in Lubbock, is that right?
Actually, I was born in Ohio. For a
Ohio.
brief stint, my folks moved to Ohio, were there for about 6 months, and that's when I entered the world. And then they came right back to West Texas. But grew up here in Lubbock. My dad actually preached for a while when this congregation was the West End congregation,
Oh, wow.
which was really cool back in the day. That had been
Man.
the 70s.
Super cool.
And then I would travel with him when he'd go preach in Morton, Texas, Spurred, Texas. You probably heard of
Yeah.
those places. He grew up in Amarillo.
Okay.
That's where he was taught the gospel at a very young age. And then so I grew up here in Lubbock, and my mom's from Idalou, and the family farm is still out there in Idalou, the Carton Farm. And,
Wow. And you are truly a local.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I went to Monterey High School and just loved growing up in Lubbock. It's a fabulous place to grow up. We should sit in the end zone. I can talk to Caleb, forgive me.
Yeah.
Just forgive us for a second,
One
George.
second. That's
So we
right.
would sit in the end zone at Texas Tech games.
Wow.
I mean, you could get in for like, I don't know, it was $10,
Oh.
and you would sit in the end zone
Wow.
and watch the Red Raiders play. So you had Monterey
Did
football.
they win back then?
They would every now and then.
Every
They
now
were
and
strong. In fact, in the 70s, the older folks will remember Ron Rivera or Gabe Rivera,
Oh, man, I love
and
that.
Senor Sack. And so those were the days.
It's a
And
great
then
nickname.
in the early 90s, you had Zach Thomas. So that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
You've just won all the hearts of the people here in Lubbock right there.
That's
No,
right.
This is history. No.
It's a great time. Loved it. So it was a wonderful place to grow up. And so.
And then in growing up, how did you come to be a believer?
Well, I was blessed with incredible parents. So my dad grew up in a family that was very spiritually minded, but didn't exactly follow Scripture specifically from the standpoint of non-denominational. Let's get into the text.
Sure.
And so he was going to church with a friend, and in fact, your podcast on growing up with ungodly parents was very powerful. His parents were
thanks.
very good people, but he had to make his faith his own. So
Yeah.
he was taught the gospel by a family up in Amarillo. And so my mom grew up in Idalou, where my granddad was an elder at Auburn Street back in the day. Auburn Street was a small congregation on that side of town. You had Auburn Street, Caprock, 62nd Indiana, and West End. And so those were the congregations in town. And so I was blessed with a powerful spiritual influence from all those people. And then my dad and Dee Bowman actually worked in radio together for many years. And so the Bowman family is very special to me. Lance Bowman, who preaches at Kings Ridge, he and I grew up together in the teen group there at 62nd in Indiana. And so I have a very blessed spiritual heritage. And then I was encouraged by Dee and Ed Harrell and others to go to Florida College and encouraged, and boy, I jumped on it, and it just made all the difference in the world for me. So I have been blessed beyond measure and feel like I have a great responsibility to share the blessings that have been shared with me.
Reciprocation.
That's really good, and I can feel that joy come off you. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not be fun, man?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Good
right.
night. We
Be
are blessed
optimistic.
people.
Be optimistic. It's very contagious.
Well, we're talking about youth. George, what do we got on the table?
So we have a few questions. We kind of just want to dive in and talk about the youth. Phil is here this weekend to teach the youth here at Milwaukee, and so we kind of want to talk about the youth and also get something out of it for everyone of all ages to apply to their lives. Well, we'll start off with a few questions, and the first one we got is, how can we stay in touch with younger people as we get older?
Just how can we stay in touch,
Yeah.
as older folks staying in touch with kids?
Yeah, you can say that. Even as just leaders, too, trying to be relevant and to connect with the younger people. We hear of this bridge gap constantly. How do we bridge that gap?
Oh, man. To me, it's easier than people think. You engage with your children. You make them a priority. One of the stories in the Bible to me that would have been the funniest to view from an outsider, but the scariest to be in it, would be the time when Jesus' disciples refused Jesus to the children to come up to him. Remember that little incident?
Yeah.
Keep the kids away. The Lord's
Get
too
outta
busy.
here.
And if you read it from Mark, the Lord became angry, very angry. In fact, some of the texts would almost say that it was a brief amount of, you can see the Lord yelling at them almost at what they were doing. And I want children. I love children. And it's not just that he loves children, he loves everybody. But those that are weak, those that need your time, give them your time. Go to Deuteronomy 6. How much time should our children have?
Yeah.
Well, when they rise up, when they lie down, when they come in, when they go out. To me, it's an easy answer. How do we stay in touch with kids? Stay in touch with kids.
Make yourself available.
And make them a priority. Engage them. Get to know them. Listen to them. The best way to teach a kid is to listen. You don't always have to tell them what to do. Listen to them and engage with them, and they'll be more open to engage with you. One of the things I always try to do with our kids back home, I want to know what sports you're in, what's your extracurricular activities, what have you got going on.
And if they play chess.
Yeah, well, if those kids I have to pass off to one of the deacons I can't relate with. But the kids that, what do you got going on? And they love to talk. Just like us. If somebody asks you about yourself, you like to talk. Well, kids are the same. So engage, listen, give them interest, and they'll reciprocate, I believe.
I found that to be really true. Just having a newborn now and having a 2-year-old, listening to them and just watching them grow it's almost been a second chance for me to grow myself, or to grow up, if you will, where it's like I can see, there's something that I need to fix myself and I need to correct just by listening to them, maybe we're just feeling down, and then, Emmy, she's my oldest daughter, she's like, Google, play Happy Hits.
Whoa, she's doing that?
Yeah.
These kids are smart.
And so she's like,
Dad's down. He needs happy.
Exactly. And so she's putting the two together, and you see, what, there should be more to life than that, and they really bring out a lot of joy.
Well, and when it's your kid, you are interested in them,
True.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're your child.
I'm invested.
You're invested. You want to get to know them. We shouldn't lose that at all. Now, clearly, we're going to be prejudiced toward our kids. You're my kid, and my kid I'm going to give all attention to. But But it's like just this past week, we had one of our kids who's grown up through our teen program is getting ready to go off in the Marines.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. I got to go to Lubbock. I do this, that, and the other. And he's going to leave. I got to take him to lunch. And so made sure I just went to lunch with him and talked to him for a while, and we laughed and shared his address so I can stay in touch with him. And
oh, wow.
And then he's running every day, and I said, dude, you're gonna have to learn how to really run, man. You get the Marines, you got to carry the pack, the hump, and so I gave him my weighted vest for running and stuff.
Oh,
and
wow.
so we just it just comes with taking the time. And boy, what a fun lunch. I had with that young man, and I look forward to seeing him grow on his own now. But we have so many opportunities as brethren to reach out to kids. Do it. Do it. Do it.
That's really good. That's really good. It's easy not to, but we should.
Yeah. And then talking to people like that, I recently turned 24. That's not too far out of the realm of the teen life. And people tell you, and rightly so to some degree, there's a weird balance. Hey, you got lots of time. Don't rush decisions and whatnot. Be wise. And then at the same time, I got people telling me you don't have a lot of time. They're like,
your life is like grass.
Yeah, Scripture makes that clear too. It's like a vapor.
It's
right?
like a vapor.
It's like a vapor.
He's going to disappear in a moment.
Yeah, and it's been a year of marriage in my personal life. I'm realizing very quickly I'm going to wake up tomorrow, Lord willing, and I'll be like 80, and like it's going to go by really fast. So how do we, when it comes to our faith though, how do we have that balance when it comes to impressing that urgency upon younger people and growing in the faith without, getting too carried away? I know it's a strange balance.
Well, I think the first thing is we got to be careful not to make everything super serious.
Wow.
If faith can be relevant and our service to God can be relevant and have purpose and we're enjoying it, they'll be drawn to it as well. I think too often we kind of make church, this is church. This has got to be serious. You got to take it. Well, yes, but don't you think Jesus and his disciples laughed every now and then?
Yeah.
Don't you think they enjoyed some moments together every now and then? And isn't it important for us to have that kind of community with the kids? I think kids are going to do what they see.
Sure.
I think they're going to do what they see. If they're surrounded by parents who make the Lord a priority, the Lord will be a priority.
Sure.
Bible study's a priority, it'll be a priority. Evangelism's a priority, it'll be a priority. We're all behavioral creatures. We become what we see.
Yeah.
Let me talk sports real quick, George.
Yeah.
You'll get this. But we laugh here because Texas Tech's very important. That's part of life.
Yeah. That's a big part of it.
Nobody in Florida cares about Texas Tech.
Right.
I'm like, what's wrong with you people? You don't care about Texas Tech? Well, they all care about Florida.
Yeah.
Especially where I am. I'm in Gainesville. I'm in the heart of it, in the
Gators.
swamp. Yeah, go Gators. And people ask me, do you cheer for the Gators? I said, yeah, when in Rome, do as the Romans. But it's fun. When I lived in Alabama, they loved Auburn in Alabama. Well, why? Because that's what their parents loved.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what their parents love. Kids that grow up in Gainesville don't love Texas Tech because their parents don't love Texas Tech. And my point is, that's all fun. But kids are learning what they see. I mean, that's Deuteronomy 6.
Yes.
Sure.
You learn what you see. So to answer your question in a long way, as a
Yeah.
preacher would,
Classic.
it's going to be mirrored by what they see. If we want our kids to take it seriously, they see us. They want us to. They want them to enjoy it. They need to see us enjoy it. I personally really believe that's how it works.
Yeah. And this would be another podcast. So that makes me think even to, the age of mature womanhood and adulthood as real adults, so to say. I mean, Jesus, in essence, did that with the 12 around him as well, and just the face-to-face interaction for 3 years with him. But I love what you're pointing out, though, the humanity of Jesus. I picture him with the kids. He's not a grumpy guy with the kids.
Yeah.
He's
No.
having fun with the kids.
I mean, that's kind of the story of Peter Pan. Is I don't want to grow up because I don't want it to be serious. It's too serious.
That's true, yeah.
But what we realize is we should make those experiences enjoyable so as it show they're a priority.
We'll put a link in here. Go check out. It was at the FC lectures. Dr. Ward had it. Did you hear that one? Dr. Ward had the humor in Jesus' teaching.
Oh, that was really good.
Should put a link to
We
that.
should
in
put a
here.
link.
That really showed out of the text kind of his humor.
Yeah. It was really
And
good.
he had serious moments for sure, but not everything was that rigorous, like you said.
Right.
That's part of the gift of life, laughter, all that kind of stuff. Really good. Okay, and then obviously part of life now is social media life, huh, George?
Yeah, I can't escape it. I did not have Facebook for the longest time, and then when I became a preacher, I was like, I guess I need Facebook, and so I got Facebook.
You entered into the abyss.
I entered into the abyss.
Welcome.
Yeah, and I'm stuck in there now, and so. But I've learned that it's a serious thing, and especially amongst the youth, it's where they gain connection. But not only gain connection, it's where they gain confidence and status, if you will, in a lot of ways. It seems like influence in certain circles. Yeah. And with that growing and being so prominent in our life, it tends to be, I have a lot of friends, but I don't have a lot of friends that aren't really friends, right? And so how do we have those friends that are genuine? How do we make genuine connection with people?
Well, it's not going to be through social media. That's an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Social media has made us less social, really.
Yeah.
That's really good, actually.
You really, when you're on social media, it's great to stay in touch. I've stayed in touch with a lot of friends.
Sure.
A lot of friends from Lubbock, a lot of my high school friends, a lot of people that I get to meet all over the nation. But that's an acquaintance. And the tragedy of social media is you can say something mean because they're not right in front of your face.
Yeah, it's true.
But at the same time, you can also share a lot of praise with a lot more people and reach people in a very generic way. So like this is a great way to reach people for somebody to share a podcast.
Sure.
However, it's not the best form of communication.
Right.
Yeah.
It should be a stepping stone to get us face-to-face and with dialogue. I mean, the gospel itself was meant to be shared face-to-face. It's funny you should mention social media. Lady on the plane, kid you not, flying into Lubbock. It was one of those people on the plane where you never got to speak. She just talked the whole time. It was a great moment. And but she had to talk about social media with her daughter because her daughter and her friend, and she had a picture she showed me on her phone. Her daughter and a friend had a spend the night party at their house. And they were sitting in the same room, texting one another.
Oh, wow.
And she took a picture of them and going, can you believe that? Oh, what's it with these kids? And my first thought was, take their phones.
Yeah.
That's how you deal with that. You're the parent, for Pete's sake. Take their phones. If you think if you're sitting here going, this is horrible, you're the parent. You control the situation. But it shows. It shows how we're easily falling back into this. And I tell you what, we got to be careful as parents. Devices are designed to be addictive.
Yeah,
they really are.
They really are.
Talked about that with Nate.
Have
We did.
y'all seen the social media?
It
We
was
talked
exactly-
about that.
we talked
there you
about
go.
that documentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It is
You're
scary.
the product. Yeah.
Because like with all things, technology and anything else, it can be a great blessing or a great curse. So to answer your question, we need to use it as a stepping stone to get face-to-face, to talk, to have that interpersonal communication where you can see a face. Non-verbal communication is more descriptive at times than verbal.
It's really good. Make it a step. Don't make it a life. Yeah. That's really good.
Use it as an opportunity to meet somebody. Use it as an opportunity to talk to somebody. Now, obviously, be careful who you're meeting.
Yeah, sure.
I got to be careful how I say that.
Disclaimer.
This is a disclaimer, but
Yeah.
but it especially when it comes to really helping somebody, teaching somebody, leading somebody to the gospel face to face.
Yeah.
Face to face. I mean, that's what you see all through the New Testament. Face to face. They went everywhere preaching the word face to face.
It's true. They did. They really did. I like that.
Stepping stone, a tool.
Tool.
I like that very much so. Okay, staying on the kind of that subject, because the youth, and not just them, I guess, how do you categorize youth? All of us are really ingrained in this culture on social media and whatnot, what the internet has done. Now, do we think the internet has exposed just how naturally we are when it comes to complaining and whatnot, or do you think it's just revealing the true status of people's hearts?
I think it's revealing
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I think it's just kind of peeled back the curtain, made it a lot easier to complain. But if you look at complaining, and I think we always go, oh, what's the deal with these kids? These kids are ungrateful. Or oh, we always throw it on the kids. No. Again, kids see and do what they see in adults. I mean, look, think of this past year, all right?
What a year.
What a
Yeah.
year. What a year for complaining.
Yeah.
What a
That's
year.
true. That's really
What a year
true.
for
Yeah.
complaining. When I saw where things were headed, my wife and I had a long talk. Well, you could just tell where this was headed.
Mm-hmm.
I made it my goal not to complain about three things. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to argue it. I'm barely going to discuss it. The virus and mask, not going there. Just not going to argue it. It's all over the place. It's not worth it. You can't win. You're only going to make people mad.
How do you even have a conversation?
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. So I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody wants to mask up and wrap themselves in bubble wrap, God bless you, do it. If another person wants to run with their mouth wide open through a plume of COVID, have at it. You know, people are all over the place. I'm not arguing.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do. You know,
Right.
I'm not arguing politics. Not getting into it. Not worth it. Not worth it. And I have my opinions, and I
Sure.
believe my opinions are right, but I have my opinions. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter with respect to the growth and the stability of the church or the gospel.
Amen.
In the first century, it was a Caesar who was putting his horse in the Senate and was doing all kind of horrible things, and Christianity spread, and Christians served the Lord with great joy.
Yeah,
So
they
true.
did.
So I'm
They
not
really did.
arguing it. I'm not arguing it. And then the third thing, I'm not arguing anything that to me is irrelevant from the standpoint it just doesn't matter to public safety or your life. I don't argue sports. Not going to argue.
Really?
Not going to argue it. Just not. I love it here. I'll have my opinion, but when I realize, somebody's really getting into it, that's fine. You'll be
Right.
fine.
man.
Not going to argue it. Not going to argue it.
What do you argue in sports?
Well, you look at it. That's if you really go to ESPN. How much of it is really sports news about a team in somebody's RBI and somebody's batting average, and how much of it is
yeah, yeah.
controversy
Yeah, just debates,
about
arguing.
debates of everything going on?
That's true. Stay out of it.
It's
Arguing.
what's the point? What's the point? So, my point is, Paul was very specific in Philippians. Do all things without complaining. Do all things. You ever looked up the Greek word for all?
Mm-mm.
You know what it means?
All?
All. Yeah, it does. It means all.
Shocking.
It's all. We laugh about that, but somebody says, yeah, but I cannot complain about this. No, you really can't. You really can't. I would encourage everybody who feels like they have even a remote tendency to complain to go for a complaining fast.
Yeah.
Take a fast. 1 month. Don't complain about anything. You'll realize how quickly you've allowed that to get into your skull, that negativity.
Brent Hunter had one where it was much shorter. He was like, "Dude, 24 hours, try not to complain."
That's right.
And you came and you realized how naturally you do it, even just on small things like about the food in the cafeteria or whatever. And you're like, "Oh, it's bad when it becomes second nature." I mean, same thing with the phone. When it's second nature, if I'm not doing anything, I'll open up my
And
phone
crack
like
this
second
open.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge problem.
It's the modern day cigarette.
Yeah, that's where I got that.
Yeah.
I actually got that from Brent Hunter.
From Brent
I was like,
Hunter,
let's
yeah,
go.
that
Why go
sounds
one
right.
day? Let's go a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Push it, man. It's
Yeah.
always amazed me. I got my Bible open to 1 Corinthians 10 where Paul is alluding back to the wilderness, and he's got sexual morality and idolatry, and you're like, that's bad. And then he mentions complaining. And for that reason, they were destroyed by God. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, sexual immorality and idolatry is in the same camp as complaining, and Paul sticks them right next to each other.
Yeah.
And says
Wow.
that's why they're destroyed. And it's just amazing.
Well, if you look at it, if you look at the word too, and you go with the history, the idea of complaining, it shows a discontent with the Lord. Because if somebody's complaining about something, they're complaining about their situation, they're complaining about their circumstance, and in reality, what they're doing is they're complaining to the Lord about life.
That's so
that's
true.
true.
And the Lord, if you think back to the children of Israel, I mean, y'all did this. You grew up going to Bible class. He leads them through the wilderness. Well, it wasn't exactly a vacation mecca. We can all agree on that. But he got them out of slavery.
Yeah.
And quail was so abundant they could knock it down with their hands.
Yeah.
And manna's falling from the sky. Not a good time to go on the Atkins diet if you're going through the wilderness, with manna and wafers everywhere. But nonetheless, food is simply falling at your feet. The whole point was, I can sustain you in a wilderness. They should have been going, this is amazing.
Right.
Would you look at this? It's raining bread, and it tastes like honey.
Yeah.
Oh, how great is that?
That's a great example of instant gratification, and yet they're still not satisfied.
And they want the
even
meat.
today.
Yeah.
Give us
30
meat.
seconds in the microwave is not enough. Yeah.
Not enough. And the sad part about it is he was leading them to a promised land that they couldn't go in because the promised land was wonderful, not because it just had milk and honey and all this beautiful stuff in it, but because their Lord would be with them there.
That's Neverland. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where God is, because that's where the joy is.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so murmuring, complaining, it's all in there together. It just shows I'm not happy with God. That's why he hates it.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think it's the same thing when Moses is up at Sinai. What is it? I think it's Exodus 32, and it says that they grew impatient. They were like, "Where is he?" And so in their impatience, they go off and build the whole idol. Again, it was a form of complaining, whatnot. Well, God's not working in my timeline. Where on earth is Moses? Let's make this thing. And it's something
This
I
will
can
get it
see
done.
tangible disaster.
All right.
It
Yeah.
didn't work out well for him, did it?
No, it
No.
did not.
No.
There you go. Try a 24-hour complaining fast, let alone a month. If you give it a month, that's like next level. Now I need to try the month.
Even in that, when they built that calf, there was a sense of, well, this has to be right then. There's a sense of, not reasonable. They weren't reasonable at all. They were complaining, and they weren't patient enough for God. And we see that today as well.
That goes hand in hand with what you were just talking about.
Yeah, it really does. We live in this, I hate to say it, the great awakening, where it's a woke culture. How do we, as Paul says in Philippians, show our reasonableness?
Let your reasonableness be known to all men. That is a great passage. One commentator had an interesting take on that word. It's one of those words, no matter what translation you go to, it's probably going to have a different word. It's interesting. It's kind of one of those words that you really can't just hone it in on. It's always going to be this, whatever translator looks at it. I'm not one of these guys that goes, well, here's what it says, but I've studied. No, I'm not. Not playing one of those guys. The translators are the translators. They're the smart guys. But on this one, it's interesting. King James Version, it says moderation. American Standard, forbearance. New American Standard, gentle spirit.
Yeah.
NIV, gentleness. Reasonableness, the English Standard Version. All right. Well, which one is it? All of them.
Yeah, all the above.
All of them. And one commentator put it like this: it's not insisting on getting every right or letter of the law or custom you believe you are due. It's yielding and being courteous.
Yeah.
If you think back to this past year, if there ever was a year for Christians to stick out, show themselves to be totally different from the world, this was it. This was it.
Yeah.
This was the time to show the world you got peace in the midst of turmoil. You've got hope in the midst of tragedy. You are secure in the Lord, and you're going to be reasonable.
Yeah, it really was.
How
That's a
cool
good
would it
point.
be just to be the person that says, everybody's screaming and yelling about this or screaming about that, and you go, I'm fine. I'm actually good. You're good. I'm good. I've got the Lord. I'm all good. Well, I'm going to take this from you. Fine. You can have it. I'll be fine.
Wow.
But what do?
Yeah.
I get my rights. I got to have my rights. Well, which part of the humility of Jesus did we miss? When he was reviled, he did what?
He did not
He didn't revile in return. When he was rebuked, he blessed.
Yeah.
This is our moment. I want us to embrace it. Let's get back to embracing it. And it's, as Paul says, this is reasonableness. Reasonableness. And, where's all that centered around? If you think Philippians 4, it's all about what? Rejoicing.
Joy.
Joy.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Rejoice always.
These are your steps to joy. Be reasonable. All right?
Yeah.
Let your reasonableness be known to all men. You are the reasonable, the gentle, the moderate, the forbearing person. and then let that peace dwell in you. That peace that he talks about there, you know, and eventually he talks about a peace that surpasses understanding.
Yeah.
The world's not going to get it, but you do, and they may want a piece of it because they see it in you. It's our time.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
That's so good.
Embrace it.
That's contagious.
Yeah, it is. And that
Yeah.
kind of goes back to the theme that you're going to be talking about as we begin to wrap up here about, and the podcast theme, about going the extra mile.
Yeah.
I wrote, George had me write a piece to the Bulletin this Sunday, just kind of looking at, hey, what would have been like to be a Jewish person in Roman occupation? And the soldiers come up and tell you, you're going to take my stuff with me for going a mile. How unjust and mad I would be at that situation. And a lot of people obviously had ideas of a Messiah kind of coming out there and bringing down Rome and all its glory, and let's go for it. And then you hear this guy, and everyone's talking about being the Messiah, healing people, and you hear him teach, and he's like, hey, if someone comes up to you and asks him to go 1 mile, go with him too. And he'd be like, what? He'd be like, what?
Yeah.
That would be the reaction for a lot of people. But there you go, in the midst of a lot of turmoil and chaos for them, the fear of being under that Roman occupation, there was a peace to be able to serve someone else in that way.
Have you ever thought about that, having to carry somebody's load an extra mile? I mean,
Yeah,
you're just going about your day, minding your own business, and then here comes a big burly dude who probably has this enormous pack, and he says, you're carrying this. You've got to drop what you're doing, and you have to carry it 1 mile.
Right.
Well, most of us, our physical fitness wouldn't even make it a mile, you know, but not in a hilly terrain, it'd be my luck. We're having to go up from Jericho to Jerusalem. It's like, that's my mile? Are you kidding me?
Oh, man.
But think about it. How did probably most Jews do it? Carry your pack, you sorry scum of a soldier.
Complaining.
Just complaining the whole time.
Yeah,
this
today
thing
we'd go
stinks.
on, I'd
and
go
this
on
and the other.
Facebook and say, can you believe
Can
this?
you
This
believe this
person's
guy?
making me do this.
Yeah. And you wouldn't take it the whole mile. You would get probably 10 yards from there, and then you would say, is that the mile marker? And you would throw it
There you go.
and make it out of my face, you scumbag. I'm done.
Yeah.
Where the Christian, the Lord says, you carry it like this. Oh, dude, you need me to carry that for you? Here, let me take that. That's got to be heavy. Where are you from? Oh, man, you're not even a Roman. You're a slave? You mean you've been forced into... Oh, dude, where are you from? Oh, my word, way up there in Asia Minor, and you're way down here? And oh, you have kids? Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Well, how long you been in the service? And engaging and talking and being kind and saying, hey, here, the mile's up. Let me keep going. I want to thank you for keeping that sorry army from the east coming in here and attacking us the other day. Granted, I may not be the biggest Rome fan in the world, but you do keep the barbarians out, and we're very thankful for that. And you've kept some safety in the city. In fact, there was this real nice centurion that built a synagogue for us up here around Galilee. That dude is the man. Yeah, you've heard of him? And just, hey, next time you're in town, look me up. I'll carry your pack again. Now, which one made an impression on the Roman?
The one went 2 miles.
Yeah. Can you imagine? He would remember that person. People remember kindness.
Yeah, they do. They do. They stand out. Yeah.
And that makes you different from the world. Be different.
Yeah. And in circling all the way back around and the youth point of view, they'll remember that kind. I mean, I've shared this on the podcast before, but when my brother had a serious surgery, I wasn't a Christian yet, and I saw the kindness and the love of people help our family out in a really tough situation. It made me stop and rethink. And I mean, that's what Jesus said, right? Love. That's what Paul said too. None of this stuff's gonna matter, and unless there's that genuine care, unless there's that love.
Yeah. Generally, whatever your impulse is, do the opposite. That's probably pretty much it.
Walk in the Spirit, not the flesh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. Really encouraging and thoughtful words from you. Really appreciate it, brother.
That's right. Go the extra mile and go so. We really appreciate you guys for listening. Remember to subscribe. It's right below the video there. Just hit it.
All right.
Just hit the subscribe button.
That's a wrap.
Go so.